Hello, welcome. In this video, we are going to learn about write file operation of FTP connection. How we are going to use write file operation, why we are using everything I will explain in this video. Before going to start, I request you to, if you have not subscribed, please subscribe this channel. It's my humble request. I have provided WhatsApp group link in video description. You can join that WhatsApp group. Even I have provided the Telegram group in the WhatsApp description link. You can join Telegram group also. Let's continue. So why we are using FTP connection? So in our project, there can be various situations whenever we have to create file over SFTP server. Some scenarios can be that we are calling VI report. Whatever data we are getting from report, we have to create one file and the same file we need to place over server. There can be sometimes we have to get the data from DB table. Whatever data we will have from DB table, we need to create one file. We need to place that file over server. For creating the file over server or placing the file over server, we have FTP connection with write file operation. We have some restriction over write file operations. Whenever we are saying that we are going to write file, we can directly write file up to 100 MB only while providing the file structure. What is the file structure? I will explain in the video. And if we are not going to provide file structure, we can write file up to 1 GB of data over FTP server. We can use encryption while pressing the file over server. Encryption, PGP key, all these things we need to provide there. So let's move to the integration part and let me show you how we can process this one. So in the integration, what we will do, we will create one integration. That integration we will pass the request payload as some value, this data. Whatever data we will pass as a request payload, it will generate one file, and that file we will place over server. In previous video, I created where I show you the file created, we send over email, but now in this video, we will place the same file created over SFTP server. So let's begin. So here I have to create one integration. As we are going to configure request and response payload, we need to select app driven or application type integration. FTP write file 01 and click on create. So we know that whenever we are creating any app-driven integration, we are not getting any endpoint here. So for starting the integration or configuring the integration, we require at least one endpoint for the trigger endpoint. So I will select REST here. I will give the name as a start REST. You can use whatever you want. Here I have to provide the mandatory part as URI. So I will use write FTP and I will select method as post so that we can configure request and response payload here only. So now go next, we have to provide request payload. So I have already created request payload, simple. Here this is a simple request payload. So I will copy this one. I will provide in the inline. So this is the sample request payload. Move next, we have to provide the response payload. So again, I will use response payload as file name and the status. So I will select JSON and will provide the structure here. You can see the status and file name will be the response. Okay. And next, done. We added the REST endpoint to configure request and response payload. Now we have to create file. So I will drag a stage file operation so that we can create the file in Oracle integration. Remember, a stage file will help you to create file in OIC virtual directory, in this directory only. And when we need to create the file here, we need to use FTP adapter. So I have already created FTP connection also. So let me first create the file here. So here you can see a stage file. I will use write file underscore stage. Next, here we are going to create file in OIC. That's why I will use write file operation. And here we have to provide the file name. So I am going to use file name something concat employee data underscore, and I will concatenate the date and time. So first I will use a string so that it can convert the date type data into a string, and then we will select date time. So here we have date time function, current date time. I will drag this current date time here. So now here we have to add that CSV. So I will use .csv. Done. We created the file name. We need to provide the path as temp. It will be OIC virtual directory. Next, we need to provide the structure, file structure, what kind of file we are going to create in OIC. The same file we will write in the server, FTP. So here we have file structure, simple employee file, open. You can see we have simple file here. I will select R for record, RS for record set. Now next, done. So here we will provide the mapping. So in the mapping only, here, so what I will do, I have to create first header, then we have to create the data. So what I will do, this is the record. I will create a repeat node. So here we will provide the data, and here we will provide the header mapping. So here I will first provide the name as header data, name as name. So using this approach, we don't require to use a stage file twice, right? So this is the simple way to add header in the file when we are going to create file in a single chunk only. Contact I will use same. It will be our header data. Then after, for data, we will map the response request wrapper, right? Now creation date will be our current date. So I will use here current date. Here you can see current date is will be our creation date, and created by will be the metadata invoked by. Runtime here we have invoked by. So now done. But here we have to provide hard coded value, right? Sorry, this is not the one. So as we are going to provide, so I will use created by, sorry, and date will be also the date, because this will be the header data, right? Creation date. Now we added the header details. So I will just minimize. Now this is our actual data. So first it will add one line as a header hard coded value, then it will provide the data. So I will just move to the request wrapper. Here array will be mapped with array, and the single value will be mapped with single values. Domain address will be mapped with address, contact will be mapped with contact, and the invoke by will be mapped with created by, and this current date will be mapped by creation date. So we are done with the mapping. Everything is done here. Validate and move back. So here you can see we successfully able to create file in OIC. Now same file we have to pass to the server, file server. So for placing the file over server, what we need to do is that we need to add the FTP endpoint. So here I have already created FTP connection. I will drag and I am going to write the file. So I will use write FTP. Next, here as we have to create the file over server, so we will use write file operation. I don't want to change binary to ASCII. Here we have to provide the directory where we want to create the file, right? Where we have to create the file. So this is the directory where we have to create the file. So I will copy this one and I will provide here. And this is the file name pattern in which file we have to generate the file here. So instead of, as you can see here, it's mandatory field. So I will provide dummy value. The same value we can provide in the mapping only. So I will provide the value in the mapping only. So move next. Here you can see if we will select schema as yes, we have to provide the schema, and then we need to provide the mapping of data. But we have already created file here using a stage. We don't require a schema. So I will select no, and we will provide the file reference of this stage file. Next, done. So you can see this is the endpoint for writing the file over server. This is the mapping. So click here. We have already provided the path, and we have to provide the directory. File name. So from where we will get the file name? In the write file response, we will get the file name. So here ICS, we will get the file reference, and here we have the file name. So I will map this file name here. Directory we have already added in the configuration. In the ICS file, we have to provide the reference, what kind of file we are going to write over server. So this is the write file stage, write stage file we are going to write over server. So I will drag this write stage file reference here. Just validate, move back. If you have any other queries, friend, you can make a comment so that we can provide you the clarification on that. And now here you can see we successfully write the file over server with the help of this endpoint. We have to provide the mapping to the response of this integration. So I will just click here in the response wrapper. I will move and a status I will provide as success. Success. And here in the file name, what we need to do, we have the file name same from the write file stage response. I will get the file name from there only. In the properties, we have the file name here. You can see, sorry, file name. I will map this file name here. Validate, validate, and go back. I have just bit confusion about the file name I added. So let me re-verify the file name what I have provided here. File name, yes, file name. That's fine. So go back. So now our integration is ready to place the file over server. Whatever data here, you can see what step it's following. Whatever data we are providing in the file request wrapper, the same data it's passing to the stage file activity to generate file. Whatever file we generated, we provided the file reference to FTP by the mapper, so that whatever file here we generated, same file we will place over FTP server. And after that, we added the mapping for response. Click on save, move back. Here we have to, you can see it's in giraffe status because of we have one error in integration, and we know that whenever we are creating any integration, it's mandatory to provide the tracking variable, minimum one tracking variables. That's why that was the error. So you can see once we provided, error is resolved. Now we can go back. You can see it's in configure status. We will activate this one. Save. It will take a little bit of time. So you can say integration activated. If you will see here file server, we don't have any file here, right? We don't have file. Once we will run the integration, it will generate one file and place the file over server, right? So click on here. You can see in body, we provided some data. We have 3 records only here, same data. Click on run. The same data will create file with the same data and place the file over server and return back response as message. You can see success. And this is the file name. You can see the time is, you can see 28/7/2023. It's 15:30:31, and the same file we will get over server. So here once we will refresh, you can see this is the file, right? If I will run this integration again, another new file will be created, as we have concatenated the second in the file name, time in the file name. So you can see we will have different file here. You can see with the same, you can see the previous file created on 31st, and here you can see in 58 seconds. And if you will see the file data, once you will click here, you can see we have the header, and we have the data. So you can see we learn here how we can add the header directly in the mapping, and how we can write the file over FTP server. Even we have another approach to place file over server without providing the file reference of the stage file. So here you can see in the integration, in this integration, what we have done, we created the stage file and then we provided the stage file reference. Instead of that, we can directly create. How? Let me create clone of this integration. 02, sorry, let me create clone again. 02 clone. And once I will edit this integration, you can see here what approach we have followed. We first created an endpoint to get the request payload. Based on request payload, we created file in OIC. Then we place the file over server. So this step is not required. Even we directly write the file over server by providing the file structure as the same we provided here. So I will delete this one. Delete. And here you can see this is the right file mapper. It will show error because the file reference is not available as we remove the stage. So what we will do here in the invoke one, if you will move to the file, here you can see we selected file reference as no, as file structure as no. So here we will select yes, so that we need to provide the file structure, the same structure we provided in the stage file mapping, right? So here we will select CSV, go to next, and here we have to drop the file structure. So I have already created a sample file. I will select this one. I will provide this R and R as a record set. Same, if you remember, same we provided in the stage file. So we don't want to provide in the stage file, we can directly write file here. You can see the file, the invoke write FTP added, and once you will see the mapper is changed to the node. You can see previously we have mapper as ICS file, and the file reference we have to map. Right now you can see file reference is removed, and now we have this one. You can see record and record set. It means we have to pass the data. Based on the data, it will directly create file over server, right? So again, here we have to, in FTP, here first we need to provide the file name. So we don't have file name in from state, as we have deleted the state. So here we have to generate the file. So I will remove the mapping and create file. So I will use concat, again employee data underscore. Here we will use, first we will use a string to convert date into a string, and then we will use date. Right, let me provide the comma. Then we will use date time to use date. So here you can see date time. I will drag this date time here. So now it will return date. It's concatenated to here name, and now we have to use that .csv. So we are done with the file name. Here we have done something wrong. Let me check. Concat employee data, that's a string date. Here we provided truly. Let me just validate once again. Here if I will validate, it's showing error again. Let me check. So now you can see it's done. I was using wrong format, as I was using current date time instead of I was using current time. That was the issue. So now it's done. We added the file reference, file name directly already we have added in the configuration. Now here we have to provide the data. So from where we will provide the data? We will provide the data from mapping. But remember, again, if we will directly map the data, we will not have the header. So first we have to add the header. So I will create a clone of that as repeat node. So you can see once we use repeat node, we have twice. We have double this endpoint. So first we will use header here. So I will create a node and provide the name as header, same value, so that it will create first line with the same hard-coded value, name dob, domain, contact. Let me add all these things. Address. Or now creation date, again it will be hard-coded value, same as creation name, so that it will create the header. Created by, again it will be same hard-coded value. And now we are done with the header. Now we have to provide the mapping of the data. So we are getting data from the request wrapper only. So we will address, map address with address, contact with contact, domain with domain, dob with dob, name with name, and the array element with array element. So we map the array element, and now these two. So this will be current date will be mapped here. No, sorry, we are done with wrong mapping of this array. Oh, set, we deleted the node. So let me create the again repeat node. So here we have to again map, sorry. So here you can see creation date will be mapped with creation date. Created by, I will map with the integration metadata as runtime we have invoked by, and rest of the things will map directly with the request wrapper. Address, contact, domain, dob, and name, and the array element with this array element. So everything we have done. Now we have to validate and We need to move back. Now here you can see everything is done. Here we have error in the mapping because we don't have the file name. Previously we passed from the stage. That's why. So what we will do, we will change the mapping from the stage to write file. So in the write file, we provided the file name. So here we have the file name. So we'll provide the file name here and done. Validate and back. We'll make save. Everything done. So what we have done here is that we are getting data as a request payload. Whatever data we are getting, we are passing same data to the FTP endpoint where we use the write operation in the and provide the data in the mapping. So whatever data we are passing with the same data, it will generate CSV file over server directly. Right. So go back and activate this integration. Here you can see in server we have only two files, and once we will run the integration, it will generate another third file. So let me run this integration. We have already provided some dummy values as a request payload. Just click on test by clicking on the run. So once you will click, you can see we have the value response as a file name created with, you can see 28 723 1541. And here if you will refresh, you can see we will get the same file. Once you will click, you can see again we have the same data. Again, if suppose we pass more values as a request payload, suppose here in the address, in last element, let me copy the last element, provide again. We provided this Virendra Singh three times, right? Provided two copy. Once we will click on run, you can see again created file with the 1541. If you will see, we will check, you can see 1541 0642. And if we will check the data, here we have more data. So this is the way we can create a write file operation to place file over SFTP server. In next video, we will see how we can get the data file present over server into OIC. Thank you so much for watching.